Okay, folks. Uh-oh. Um, am I frozen? I can't tell. My lag here, my whole computer seems to be not responding. And so I don't know if I'm going on or not. But I can see my monitor inside of the Facebook Live studio responding. So thank you very much for your patience. It looks like Houdini Secrets Live is on, and we are operating. So very cool. Thank you very much for joining it. It seemed like I hope everyone is there who is going to attend. Facebook kicked me out. The university has been having some internet issues, and when I tried to connect, it didn't want to connect, and then Facebook just said, "Okay, I give up." And then it terminated my session, so I had to start a brand new session and then start all over again. So thank you very much for your patience, and let's get this show on the road. All right. Now, by request, I've had it said like, how do you create procedural buildings in Houdini? Well, that's kind of like saying, how do you just create a building? Well, okay, there's a lot of different ways of doing it. So I decided to do it. Okay, do it the Louise Cruel way. Let's do it with Side Effects Labs. So Side Effects Labs actually has a tool that you can improve. It's called the building generator. Okay, cool. It is one way of doing things, and that's what we're going to go over today. We're going to go over the building generator and give a quick introduction on how that basically works. Next week, we're going to show how to integrate that with a package from maybe UE4. We're going to download an asset pack, and then we're going to download some assets. We're going to integrate those assets, and then either get it going with a digital asset within Houdini engine, or we're going to export an entire building. I haven't really decided which. I'm still kind of juggling what I'm going to do yet. But we're going to try that, do that, and we're going to do that next week. But this week, we're just going to focus on just how to use the tool. All right. With that said, we're going to get things going. I'm going to start off by opening up a brand new Houdini session. Uh-oh. My OBS is not responding. That's not a good sign. Okay, hopefully we keep going. Come on, hopefully this responds sooner or later. Because if I have to end or terminate OBS, it is not going to be good. And I can't share my screen here. All right, come on, please, OBS, respond for me, please. I could keep on doing my song and dance routine all day long. But unless it is going here, we're not getting anything going. But I'm going to take a deep drink. And we are going for OBS. But if I terminate and fix OBS, we are going to get kicked out. So what do we do here? Let's see. Okay. Well, I'm going to end this stream, and then I'm going to immediately start it up again. And then hopefully we'll get OBS to start behaving. If not, it looks like I'll probably have to reboot my machine, which is not cool. So it is now 3:08 p.m. and we are in a holding pattern. Come back at, oh, hey, we're back on. Hey, OBS came back. Yay, thank you, OBS. Let's see if we can go back. Oh, do we have Houdini going? We do. Okay, very excellent. Thank you, OBS. We now are ready to rock and roll. I was afraid we were going to have to go and I afraid we was going to have to go and kind of get things terminated and so forth. Yes. Okay. Are good. All right. All right. Very cool. So we're going to start off here. Like I said, we're going to use the Side Effects Labs procedural building tool. And so we're going to start off with a brand new project. So I'm going to go over here to projects and I'm going to say new project and Houdini projects and so forth. So go ahead and create a new project. I'm going to use an existing project I had before. So if you want to use an existing project, you can go right ahead. or you can create a new project. It's all your own. And I've got mine called Procedural Buildings, listed under Houdini Secrets. And I've got a new, well, I'm just going to make sure it is a new scene. Discard a new. Okay. So we've got a new scene here. We are ready to rock and roll. All right. So the first thing that we're going to need for this are some tiles. And the tiles are basically going to use what's going to construct the exterior hull of our building. And so let's go ahead by creating some tiles. So I'm going to right click here and add a new folder. So geo. Give me some geometry. Okay, we've got geometry. I'm going to call this one tiles because we are going to put all of our tile information inside of this geometry node. All right. Now we're going to start off by creating just a basic box. All right, we have a basic box here. Now, in order for these tiles to work, they have to be in the YZ plane oriented along the negative X direction. So that means, well, you'll see in a moment here what I mean there. So for the size of my box here, I'm going to make it 0.25 in the X direction. So it's going to be kind of narrow. And I'm going to create a 4x4 box. Nice and simple. Whoops. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, now, like I said, it has to be in the YZ plane, which it is already, but you'll notice that it's centered over the x-axis, and it's kind of like centered in the middle. So I'm going to use some fancy Houdini, just simple expressions in order to get things going here. So for the center here, I'm going to type in CH, open parentheses, and in quotes here, I'm just going to put size X. And you'll see that it moved the thing over so that it moved over just a little bit, but I want it to go in the opposite direction. I only want to move it half of the size. So the half of the size is actually would be 0.25, but half of that is 0.125. So I'm going to say minus 0.5 times that, and you'll see that we are now butted along the x-axis. So let's do the same thing, but I want to be butted up along the positive y and the positive z-axis. So I'm going to say 0.5 times CH, and I'm going to put inside the parenthesis quotes there the size y. And I'm going to do the same thing for the z-axis. 0.5 times CH in parentheses and in quotes size z. Oops, typo here. Okay, you'll see that using this kind of like moving the size and then moving it half by moving it half the amount is a good way of doing this, because you'll see that now if I wanted to change the size, if I wanted to make it thicker, like if I wanted to get the much bigger in the X direction, you'll see that it's always centered right in the same place. And likewise, if I wanted to make it taller, all I'd have to do is expand the height, and you'll see it's always grounded, and likewise it's deep as well. So we can change that, and having this procedure right in here. By the way, if you were wondering what size X, size Y, and size Z refers to, it's actually these channels. How did I know that they're called size Y? Because if I put my mouse over the little attribute here, a little pop-up comes up and it says parameters, size X, size Y, size Z, and that's exactly what I'm accessing there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this as our basic panel here, and we're going to create a window into it. And you say, well, how are we going to create a window to it? Well, we're going to use some very simple modeling techniques. These are not excellent techniques by any means, but they do work. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and append a poly extrude node. Poly extrude. All right. Now, I'm going to say group equals 1. You're saying, what is group equals 1? All right, I want to use the first polygon. So how did I know it was 1? Well, if I turn on these primitive numbers here, right here, you'll see that every one of these polygons is labeled 1, 2, and 3 is probably over there, and then 4, 5, and 6. Well, guess what? This is a cube, so it has 6 faces, and we want face number 1. So when we say group 1 in here, we're going to say, okay, perform the operation only on group number 1 here. I'm going to turn this off because I don't like to model with my numbers showing. It's embarrassing. But my inset, notice that when I drop the inset and move this down, it either gets larger or it gets smaller in here. And you'll see that it's kind of like moving on the inside. And I'm just going to move it on to about 6.75. Okay, so it's about like, maybe about half of the way in there, a little bit more. And so we've got some extruded polygons in there, but we want to maintain some of this information. So we're going to make sure that the output front group is true. And then for the front group, we want to set as true too, because before this was said that it didn't have any kind of groups in here. But now we've got groups all over the place. How do we know? If we click an I, we'll see that here I have extrude front is now a group in here. And we're going to use that information now to help us continue making our window. So I'm going to append another poly extrude SOP here. And for my group here, I'm going to choose, guess what? Extrude front, which is what we did here. So that means we're only going to be performing on this. And so what we did was we inset this front face. We insetted a certain amount. And now if we're going to create a window frame, all we have to do now is kind of like pull it out. So we're going to modify the distance and pull this out. You'll see that it kind of like pops out here. You see it kind of like getting big. So in a positive direction, it pushes it out. We could also go in a negative direction and kind of pushes in. But we want it to come out because we want to create a kind of a windowsill out here. I'm going to make the distance about 0.2. All right. So we see we have a little bulge out of there, which is groovy. It's a place to start. So I'm going to go ahead and toss in. You got another poly extrude. And we're going to inset this a certain amount, just like we insetted the other one, but once again, it maintains the most front group and it just keeps on extruding it along. So I'm going to say, yes, we want to do the extrude front again. And for the inset, I'm going to dial this in here. And so it's going to inset a certain amount. And I'm going to insert this, maybe 0.34. And so it's been pulled in there. Okay, we have a nice little inset there. And we're going to do one more poly extrude SOP. And my group, I'm going to use the extrude front again. And then for the distance, I'm going to go into the negative direction. That means I'm going to pull it backwards. So, and that's going to be pulled by 0.2. No, that's now at negative 0.2. Okay, now we have a basic kind of like window frame object here. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and give this a color node so that we can actually see what kind of color we want it. Okay, let's give it a color. And what kind of color do I want? Let's see, do I know what kind of color that we want for this? Oh, let's give it some kind of basic color. Let's give it some kind of like a golden yellow. I might come back to get burned by this, by the classic point. Okay, well, that's fine. Let's see if I can get some kind of orange out of this. Let's see if we can kind of lighten it up a bit. All right, I'm feeling kind of golden now anyway. Okay, now in order for the Side Effects Labs building tool to work, we have to take all of our tiles and then we have to give them a name. You say a name. What do we mean by a name? Okay, we are going to create an attribute for this entire primitive object, and we have to give it a specific name. So append an attribute create onto that, and with that, we're going to create a brand new thing. We want the whole object to be named the whole thing. So for the name, I'm going to call it 4tile. Now, the reason why I said 4tile is because if you can remember back when in the box here, we called it a 4x4. So therefore, I'm calling it a 4tile, so I know how big it is. Now, for the class type, we want primitives. Oh, this is important. For the name attribute, where it says name, we have to type in the word name. Now, this is very important. The name of our attribute needs to be called name. Very important, because otherwise it's not going to work. All right, so our class has to be a primitive type. The type is equal to a string, because we're going to give a very specific name to this. And the string, I'm going to do something called $OS. So I'm being lazy. So look at here. What we did was we created 4tile here. We call this 4tile, and that's all good and fine. But I wanted to show, like, okay, where is all these primitives so far? If we look over here, does it show, okay, extrude front, but where is this attribute? It doesn't show up. Okay, it's in here. I am going to show you folks where this is. I'm going to click over here, plane tab. I'm going to get my inspector, my geometry spreadsheet. And now if I go over here to the primitives action, notice here that all of my objects are called 4tile. You're going to say, well, hey, wait a second. We didn't call the string 4tile, but we did put a little expression here in the string called $OS. And $OS is a little Houdini script in there. It says, okay, whatever my SOP name is, go ahead and drop that in here. So all I'm doing is making the group name that. Now, there is a method to my madness, and we are doing this for a reason, and you'll see in a little while here. And I'm going to finish this by creating a little output node. Okay, give me an output. Okay, I'm going to put the display flag on here, and I'm going to call this tiles out. Okay, now the reason why I put tiles out here is because we're going to have more than one tile over time, but in due course. And I always like to take my output nodes and I like to give them a green color, because that tells me that this is where we're going and this is the start. And we're going to get this box, and I'm going to go ahead and color this one yellow, meaning that this is the start. Okay, it's just a little bit of a naming, a little bit of a color convention I like to use that kind of identifies the start and the end. All right, now before we do anything, I'm going to go ahead and file, save this project, and I'm going to go say building demo A. We're going to do B next week. All right, we've got our basic fundamental tile here. All right, I'm going to go back up to the object level, and I'm going to drop in a new geometry node. So I'm going to type in that, drop in a new geometry, and I'm going to call this block out A. Block out A. Okay, we're going to drop into this, and I don't want to see that old piece here anymore. So I'm going to click that off. That's all I want to see is my block out. All right, so we're inside of this. And so what we want to do is we want to lay down the basic shape and size of our building, kind of like the footprint and kind of like the basic size of this. So we're going to start off by just laying down a big old box. So give me a box. And I'm going to lay down this box. I'm going to give it a size of 20 10, and 10. And that's 101, which is way too big. All right, so we're going to make our building into here. And so we're going to do that same little kind of trick of where we always want it above the y-axis. And we're going to put that right here. It's 0.5 times CH, and inside the parentheses and inside the quotes, we're going to go size y. Okay, now wherever we do this, it's always going to be above the y-axis. Okay, now with this part, I'm going to say that it is wing A, because we're going to make this kind of like kind of like a U shape. I want to call this, and this is like the wing A portion. And so we've got over here, I'm going to go ahead and put a translation in it, transform. And then I'm just going to translate it to, I'm going to keep this procedural because we are endowing a procedural mentality here. So whatever the size in the Z is, I'm going to move this 1.5 units over times the Z. What does that mean? So if I come over here to translate, I'm going to expand this so that we can see it a little bit better. So it should be 1.5 times CH, which is a channel of the size, and so that's wing A. So I'm going to go, it should be ... / wing A / size Z. Okay, now I forgot to put a quotes in the starting of that. Okay, I'm going to click apply, and there it is. It moves it over 15 units. Okay, so it moved it over. Did it move over? Yes, it did. All right, very cool. Now I am going to go and Alt drag to create another node, and I'm going to click Alt and pull that over, and I'm going to call this wing B. And so I'm going to call that, and so for the formula here, I'm just going to multiply that. Instead of 1.5, I'm going to say it's negative 1.5, and then we moved it way over there. And so now we have 2. And so what I'm going to do now is create a bridge to kind of go in between. And I'm going to drag this off here. And I'm going to drag one more transform node. And I'm going to call this guy bridge, because this is going to be the bridge that connects the two. And, actually, I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and then just click Alt, and then wing B, and then I'm going to call that bridge. The reason why I'm doing that, because that's just one less thing to move over. And so for the translate, and I'm going to go in and give it a 90-degree rotation. And it should be just negative 0.5 in the Z direction. Okay, so we've got these 3 here. Let's merge them together to create just one object. So I'm going to grab a merge. There, and then we merge. All right, so it looks like my bridge object is kind of off here. So where am I moving it? So it seems like, let's move this over. I'm kind of like missing over like a half unit. So let's change this over to, would this be -1 times change yet? No. Do we want just minus? Okay, minus. Oh, so do we want this, is this to be 2? No, so we're going in the wrong direction. So let's just make this 1. I'm just guessing here. Oh, this should be just 0.5. 0.5 times there. Or how about 1.5? No. Let's just try this. Boy, this is just not working today. So it's 1.5 times box. See, it's, what does this need to be? So it's size X, size Z here, minus 0.5 times, okay, how about minus 0.25? No, minus 1, minus 0.125. We're getting closer. Okay, and so is this just 0? I've got to delete this entire channel and then put 0 on here. Okay, and so it is a value of 0. And so how much are we going to move this over into the X direction? Okay, so what we're going to do is in the X direction. And this should be, okay, what is what's this value? Is the size, okay, so it's half of half in the or it's quarter size in the X direction. So we're going to keep this procedural here. Why not? So it's minus 0.25 times CH, and inside the parentheses, inside the quotes, it is dot dot slash wing A slash size X. All right, so it's tucked right in there. And so we have is kind of like a U shape. And this is like focused along the negative x-axis or along the x-axis, focusing in. And we should have our merge. All right, I'm going to go in and drop in a output node. And I'm going to call this blockout. All right, I'm going to give this a color so I know what it is. See, and since this is my start, I'm going to give this a color yellow. All right, very good. I'm going to come back up here. And so I've got my tile and I've got my block out. Everything looks good. I'm going to turn both of these off here. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to hit save. And now I'm going to go into the Side Effects Lab folder. Now, if you don't have the Side Effects Lab folder, what you got to do is you got to go here to plus, and then where it says shelves, you got to boogie on all the way over here. Oops, come on. Of where it says Side Effects Labs. Go ahead and turn this on. Click. When you get turned on, then this shelf pops up. Now you want to make sure to go ahead and click this far button where it says Side Effects Labs embedded. Okay, it's embedded now. Now, if you don't have it installed, what you got to do is you got to install it. And so there should be a little install button. Now, if you have already got it installed, go ahead and hit the update button and it'll update it to the most recent version. Okay, it says, yeah, okay, we'll go ahead and update, but it's not going to do it. You might have to restart your Houdini session if you do an update, so a little bit of a beware. But we have all the tools that we needed here. So let's go ahead and drop in our building geometry. I'm going to right click, or I'm going to hit tab and throw down some geometry. And I'm just going to call it building. Now, the way I'm doing this is the way that I like to do things, but since I have separate objects for my tiles and separate objects for my block out objects, I'm going to create a separate object for my building. But I need to pull all of those tiles and all those block out objects into this building. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use a object merge node in order to bring those things in here. And I'm going to type in object merge. All right. And now, so for the object one, I'm going to keep my path relative. And so let's see if I remember what it is. Should be dot dot means go up a level, go over, look over, and I need to go one more level, go up one more level. Okay, and there is my tiles. And there we go. Tiles. Okay, good. And there's my tile object. Now, okay, in order to be sort of, we could do this a couple ways. Now, I like to do this as whereas transform object, I like to put a period here. And what that means is transform this object into local space. Now, you're saying transform object, what are you talking about? Okay, if you tuned into my earlier broadcast today about, for Tech Art Talk Live, we started about transforms. What we're doing is take all of the transforms that affect this object and apply them to whatever object that we're importing. That's what transform object is, and that's what we're doing here. Is we're transforming this tile space into our current object space. You with me? Okay, that's the important, and that's exactly what we're doing. I don't want to call this one tiles because that's what's being imported in here. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here, and I'm going to hit Control and then drag this, and I am going to make this my block out object. Block out. Okay, and then I'm going to type in block out here because there's a block out A. That's just what we want. Okay, and there we go. We have our tiles object and our block out object. And so we should be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and hit save because it's been one of those days. I don't want to give chance any opportunity to rear its ugly head. So now what we're going to do is drop down our building generator. I'm going to hit tab and I'll go building. All right, we don't want the generator utility. We'll get into that a little bit later here, but we're going to go building generator here. God, what does Luis have got here? We've got labs OSM building, labs snow buildup. Wow, boy, the side effects labs are really doing their job. They just keep up coming with all these great tools, but we're just going to use this labs building generator. Okay, we're going to drop that in here. And I can't remember which goes which. So I'm going to hover over the first input. It says required blockout geometry. And so we're going to drag this blockout geometry in here. And let's go ahead and turn this on. And it's going to think, it's going to perk. Okay, look at this. Check this out. What this did is it laid out some kind of information that conforms to the shape of our blockout shape. Now, whatever our blockout shape is, it kind of creates the and it kind of subdivided these polygons into this. Now, we can adjust the floor height by moving this in here. And so, while it has 4 floors that kind of shape into the overall size that we initially gave it, it tries to fit as much of this as it possibly can into the shape that we gave it. And so since our floor height is, it started off, our tiles are 4. I'm going to type in 4 here just to keep things going. But that means is that there's a space of 2 left over in there because our initial block was a size 10, right? So we have a little bit in there. Now for our second input, what do we want here? It says, okay, is it going to tell me? Hello. Okay, it says building modules, input 2. Okay, that's what we're asking for is these tiles. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this in here. And nothing happened. Why? Okay, we have to tell the building generator what to use. So click on here where it says primary. And notice here where it says wall facade, which says the facade module pattern. So what we want to do is type in the word for tile, because that is the name of our tile system that we have here. And look at that. It tried to fit in as many of these floor tiles that we could of the exact shape and size. So it replicated our floor tiles all the way around. All right, very good. I'm going to hit save because this is actually going pretty well. All right, now what we're going to try to do, you'll notice that we have these tiles up here. They're going across, but we've got some space here. Notice that it's got these little tiles down here, and these are our bottoms. And these kind of like bigger tiles up here, these are the tops. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create some top tile geometry and some bottom tile geometry. So I'm going to come back up over to the objects. I'm going to go back into my tiles. And I'm going, okay, I'm going to make sure that this context viewer, so I only want to see what I'm currently working on. So I'm going to add one more viewport. So it's a size view. Give me another viewer, and I'm going to want it into context view. So there I can turn on my building, but I can turn on my tile, go into my tiles, and it is still not showing here. So I'm going to turn off my tiles. Turn off my building so I can look at my tiles. All right, very good. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use some of this stuff for information. So I'm going to go in and select all of these guys, and I'm going to put them in a network. So I'm going to click this network, and then I'm going to type in the word for tile. So this is my for tile network. Okay, and now I'm going to create 2 more copies of this. So I'm going to create the top over this. So click on here. So click over that. So that creates one group. And then I'm going to click over here to create another group. All right. So we've got those 2 extra groups here. So we're going to go into this network copy here. And I'm going to call this group up here top. So I'm going to type in the word top. All right. And so my box 2, I'm going to click into that, and I want to use something much smaller. So I'm going to go 0.25, and for my Y height, I'm going to go 0.5, and for my Z, I'm going to keep it at the length of 4. All right, I'm going to go ahead and display this. And you'll see now that this is the reason why I put in those expressions, because when we copied those expressions, everything kind of just merged over. All right, so we got these poly extrudes. Let's see if we can create some poly extrude actions for the top and bottom. Let's just use these. I'm going to have to go and modify these up a little bit. So for this one, I'm going to click onto this, and I'm afraid my inset is just a little bit too big. So I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. So let's make this like 0.1. Okay, and then for this inset, okay, 0.2, that's a little bit big, so we're going to make this 0.1 again. And for our next poly extrude, I'm going to make this probably 0.1. And actually, let's make this even smaller, 0.05. Make it really small. And then for this poly extrude, we want -2. No, we only want -0.1. Okay, so we have a nice little bevel edge here. Okay, for the color, so we color that golden. Oh, let's color this one, something. So this is like for the top. So let's call all this some kind of like simple, kind of like pinkish color. So some kind of red, and I'm going to dial this down here. So some kind of pink color. All right, it's now pink. And for this 4 tile, let's call this one top ledge. Top ledge. Okay, we've got top ledge coming at us here, and that worked out pretty well. And so this is for our top, and our bottom is going to be actually a little bit smaller. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to realize that I've got this top here and I modify these poly extrudes. I'm going to go ahead and delete all this right now, and then I'm going to make a duplicate of my top network because this one is going to work better, I think. So I'm going to click Alt and then drag my top, and so I've got a duplicate here. I'm going to click up here to bottom. Okay, I'm going to come back up here to the alts, the size here. So we've got that up here. And so we got 0.25 and we got 0.25 down here. So it's really small. So it is like super dinky here. And so we're going to end up with some really small mounts here. So for this poly extrude, all right, we've got some very small poly extrude action here where we make this 0.1. So let's make this 0.05. All right, so this poly extrude, we extruded a whole 0.1, so let's knock that in half to 0.05. All right, we've got this poly extrude. We got 0.05 here, it's very small, so let's make it 0.025, even smaller. And for this poly extrude, where it goes, let's go for minus 0.05. All right, and so let's give this kind of a color. So we had golden, we have red, so let's make this kind of green. So let's start with the green, and I'm going to knock down my saturation some to make it kind of paler out. All right, so we've got that. So give it a green color. And so I'm going to call this bottom ledge. Now remember that we've got top ledge and bottom ledge, and we call them this. Now, by default, remember that in the attribute create, we've got this little string where it's got the expression $OS. So whatever the name of this particular SOP is becomes the name of our object. Pretty cool, huh? All right, but what we need to do is combine these right into here. And then I'm going to grab my top ledge node, my bottom ledge node, and I'm going to hook them right to my merge. And so they are all kind of combined all into one here. All right, I'm going to hit File, Save, just so I don't lose my work. Now I'm going to go and sojourn back over to my building. And there's our building object. And so look over here where it says primary. Okay, secondary, that's where we have a top ledge and a bottom ledge. So for the module pattern here, let's go in and type in the word top ledge. And our top ledge gets inserted there. And so where it says bottom ledge, let's type in bottom ledge. Okay, so we've got the tops and the bottoms, and it does its best to kind of fill things in. Now, I think, what was our heights on these? I can't remember, so I'm going to go in and go back over to tiles. What was our heights in this? The first box, my height was 0.5, and the other one was 0.25. Okay, so let's go back into here. So if we have 0.5, let's see, is this going to, if we make this 0.5, all right, and then we make this 0.25. Okay, so the SOP, the building generator does its best to kind of replicate these the best that we can according to the size that we've given them to me. All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit save because we're doing pretty good and we haven't had a crash in a while. Okay, don't tempt fate. All right. Now, you'll notice here that we have corners here. Now the corners, we need to create some kind of tile geometry for the corners, but we got two kinds of corners. One, we have convex corners. That means that kind of goes around the bend here. And we have concave corners of where well, let's just say the angle is 90 degrees here and it's negative 90 degrees here. And so we need to make some corners. So let's go ahead and create corners for our main tile here. So I'm going to go back up into my tiles folder, and we've got all of our stuff there. So let's go and we're going to make corners for our tiles here. And so I'm going to go ahead and duplicate my 4 tile down over here. And I'm going to move this up over here. I'm going to move these over here because this is going to start to get big. We've got all these tiles that we're creating here all over the place. All right, so I'm going to keep this simple, and I'm not going to do any of this poly extrude business. And so I'm going to call this 4 tile corner L, corner underscore L. Okay, now because a convex and a concave corner has 2 parts, it has a right part and a left part. So what we have to do now is make sure we get the right part and the left part. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all of this stuff. And I'm going to clean things up a little bit. Keep it simple. All right, so I'm going to leave the template of my tile on. So I'm going to clean that up there. But we have our corner here, which right now is the exact same size. But we're going to change things up a little bit. So for the tile corner, for the size, I'm going to make the size in the X half of the X, so it's 0.125. And the height, I'm going to leave it 4, but the width in the Z direction, I'm going to change that over to 1. So you'll see that that is much smaller in location. All right, but that's exactly the way we want. And so I'm going to change this title here to the same thing that is my title of my network, underscore corner underscore L. And so we got that there. And then I'm going to, since this has to be on the outside, so where we got this object here. Now my center of my object, right now we're in the object, and I want my corners to kind of like reside on the outside, kind of like some trimming. And so since this is going in the X direction, so this is like in the Y, let's go in the opposite direction. I'm going to click on this and make this a positive. And so now it's kind of like been extruded onto the left here. And so what we've got that, and so what we need to do is we need to bevel the sides, so because the sides are need to be angled so that when we fit them together, they'll fit together into match. So I'm going to insert a SOP, an edit SOP, in between the box and the color. Okay, I'll move this over here, and I'm going to drop in an edit SOP. Now what we're going to do is I am going to hand edit some of the points in here. So where it says group type, I'm going to change this from group, and I'm going to change this over to points because I want this to be working on the points. And so it might bequeath us to understand what group that we want here. So what points do we want? I'm going to click on this little point number thing, and I want points 1 and 5 here. You know, we've got 5 here, and then point 1 down here, and so those are the points that we want. So I'm going to type in 1 space 5 in here. That's definitely not 15, so don't type in 15. It's 1 space 5. And so that we're going to move, and then we're going to move it however wide our box is. So we have it here, and so I'm going to translate here. I'm going to keep this in procedural. And so this is minus CH. Let's get some room here. In parentheses, in quotes, we want dot dot slash. Okay, this is the 4th box, so this is box 4. Slash, we want size X. Okay, click that and click apply. And you'll see what that did was it pulled vertices 1 and 5 minus 0.125 direction in there. And so what that did was it created a 45-degree angle right alongside the corner here. All right, so click accept here, and that's exactly what we've got there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another tile that's going to be on the left-hand side. So we've got this for the left, and so let's create one for the right. So I'm going to hit Alt and then drag this across, and then I'm going to call this network 4-tile corner underscore L. Instead of this should be underscore R for right. Okay. Now my box size should be 0.125 and then 4 and then 1. And my group is going to be, and then our edit, we want, instead of 1 and 5, we want 2 and 6. And that means we want these ones to go over here because they're going to go kind of like go in the exact opposite direction here. So click on here, and so this is like 2 and then 6, which are the exact opposite side here. And now where the direction that we want to go is, instead of negative, we want to go positive. So I'm going to click on here and change that negative CH over to a positive CH. Now we have these 2 tiles here, that one's going right and one's going, oh, let's change the name on this guy over to 4-tile underscore corner L. Should be, oops, 4-tile underscore corner underscore right. Okay, so these are our convex, these are our convex ones, the ones that are going along the outside. But what if we want to create the ones going on the inside? These are the ones for the convex. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate these boxes, these 4 boxes here, and then I'm going to Alt, drag them off over here. And so these are going to be our convex ones, our convex boxes. So I'm going to title this one, so this group, so it's L underscore CVEX for convex, and this one is going to be right underscore CVEX for convex. All right, and now, so for this edit, so instead of going negative, we want it to go positive, because, well, let's see, for this left one, this is going to go on the inside, but we want this, instead of going kind of like beveling out, we want it to bevel in. So it's going to be the same group, but we want it to go in the opposite direction. So we're going to change this CH over that. We're going to make that positive. So now you see that the bevel is kind of going in. And now for this one, we're going to make sure that the direction is going in the exact opposite direction there. So I'm going to say negative CH, and that means that that bevel is now going in the opposite direction. Okay, so now when we plug these in, they'll fit in with each other nice and fine. Now I'm going to go ahead and change these names. So it's for tile 1, corner underscore L, and I'm going to say underscore CVEX. So say this is convex, and do the same thing over here, CVEX, to make it convex over there. All right, so now we've got these 4 extra tiles here that correspond to our corners. Now I'm going to go ahead and select all 4 of these tiles, and then I'm going to drag just one of them and connect them to the merge, and all 4 of them are going to get merged in to the group there. All right, file, save. Okay, very good. Now I'm going to go ahead and we saved our file. I'm going to go back to my building. Now look over here, where we come back over here to primary, it says concave corner module and convex corner module. Now the concave are the ones going on the outside and the convex are the ones going on the inside. So for the corner module here, I'm going to type in for tile underscore corner underscore L, and this one is for tile underscore corner underscore right. Okay, now click these. Are they going to be on? Okay, for tile corner L, for tile corner right. Okay, they're not showing up. So that means I misspelled something. I'm going to have to go back over to my tiles. And for tile corner L. Oh, here it is. Look at that. I accidentally, it's got the extra tile 1 in there. So I'm going to have to go ahead and change the names of these. So this one, I'm going to get rid of that 1. And this one, get rid of the 1. Now you're probably asking, why didn't I just change the name inside of the building generator? Well, I just like to try to keep things organized, and it's a way of being thorough for me. I suppose it's a little bit of my own production methodology, a way of ordering some kind of a trouble down the road. So I'm clicking here to buy, and you'll see that, all right, okay, very cool. Well, not cool. Uh, it looks like our left one is correct, but our right one is kind of going in the wrong direction. So that means we need to shift over our right one because it's kind of like in the wrong location. All right, so all we have to do is kind of shift it, and it looks like it's going in the X direction in the wrong direction there. So let's see what happens there. All right, so I'm going to go back into the tiles. And so for my corner right, let's see, my corner right object here, we've got that going here. So my corner left is going there. So this needs to be moved over there. So my box itself, instead of 0.5 CH, I'm going to have to move my center over to the full length, for the full width over. And so where should this be? Okay. What should this be? Okay, so that moved that over to there. And so let's move this over into the other way. So if it just negative 0.5, is that going to be give me what I got? Yeah, that should do it. So you see right here that the beginning of my outside kind of like extends here, but here's the bevel that kind of swings out here. And so that should pretty much do it. All right, so let's go back to my building. And let's take a look at our corners. Okay, so our corners here are now covered. And they are now set up to each other so that they matched up correctly. All right, cool. Now we've got the concave corners. Let's go with the convex corners. So I'm going to grab this guy here, Control C, hit Control V, and I'm going to say underscore CVEX. And then I'm going to hit Control C and Control V. And this should be underscore CEVX, CVEX. Okay. And we don't see our thing. So our right convex is misspelled. So it's not corresponding. So we have to check the spelling on that. And we forgot to change the direction of that again. So we're probably going to have to do the same thing that we did before. So let's go ahead and move that over. Go back to our tiles. Okay, so our convex, CV corner convex. Oh, we got rid of the R here. So that's the reason why we didn't find that, because our name was incorrect. And so now for our box here, we identified this object. Let's see. It's here, this object there, and so this object probably should just be negative. All right. And is that going to be right? Yeah, that should be right because the bevel is going on the inside. Okay, cool. All right, drop inside the building here. And then we see our convex corners now have been done the same. Okay, now we could go ahead and do this same thing for our top and our bottom ledges, but that would get a little bit mind-numbing, and we're just going to have to be doing the exact same process over and over again. So I'm going to hit save. And we're getting just to where I wanted to get as far as our what I wanted to cover today, because we might say to ourselves, okay, this is cool, but you know, if we're going to be using like a UE4 module set, some of these tiles might be pre-created. So we don't have to do, you know, so what we want to do if we so what are we going to do if we wanted to do make sure the size is make sure that the size is going to be corresponding. And so what we could do is if we kind of like go back over here to the tiles. Now, instead of this attribute create, we are going to use a SOP here called, and so this is a building generation. Now we're going to use the building generator utility beta. We're going to drop that in here, and we're going to drop that in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the 4 tile in here, but I'm going to make sure that that's small here. And I'm going to call this one 4 tile, and I'm going to call it underscore old, because that's the old one that we got. And I'm going to make sure that this new one is now called 4 tile. Okay, so for the module name, I want it to be, let's call this module name $OS make sure it's the exact same name, and this is giving me a warning. So what kind of warnings are they giving us? Module dimension not specified. This might produce unexpected results. Okay, so we created this to be 4 by 4. So let's go ahead and put 4 by 4 into this. And now let's go ahead and see what happens. So we've got that 4 tile going in there, and so it's using this. This generator utility will force, it's kind of like it's talking to the other SOP, the other digital asset that was created, and it will force the tile to be 4 by 4. Remember that we are manipulating the size and so forth of the object inside of the tile, inside of the building generator, and it was kind of monkeying around, and we could change things, but this will force it to be 4 by 4. Okay, and so now our tiles here are now forced to be 4 by 4. Now let's see if we go ahead and monkey with the tile height. We can change this, but it will make sure to maintain the proper coordinate spaces. But because we did that, we're kind of monkeying with the overall height, and that kind of like mucked up the height for our top ledge and our bottom ledge, and it kind of screwed those up. So what I would probably want to do is then go ahead and go through this and replace all of those attribute creates that we created before with the utility node and make sure that those are all of the right size. In fact, let's go ahead and do all that to make sure that these are actually working correctly. So I'm going to hit save and come back up into the tiles. So I'm going to go and drop this over here. I'm going to turn this off, and then I'm going to drop in a 4 tile building utility, sneak that in there, and I'm going to call this top ledge, top underscore ledge, top ledge, and I'm going to call this one old. So make sure to reserve that namespace. And what was my top ledge size? We called it 0.25, 0.5, and then 4. So the height was 0.5 and the width was 4. So if we wanted to maintain that size here, that would be 0.5 and then 4. Is that right? Yeah, 0.5 and 4. Okay, that's where we got our top ledge. And let's do the same thing for the bottom ledge. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off, call this one old. And then I'm going to drop in a new building generator utility. Make sure that this is called $OS. Give this one the name of bottom ledge. And I forgot to type $OS in here. All right, so for this bottom ledge, and what was the size of my bottom ledge? That was 0.25 and 4. So let's make this 0.25 and 4. All right, so we've got that going here for our top and bottom ledge. So let's go and see what the results are in our building. All right, and so it does not like the bottom ledge. And I think I may have screwed this up, the hoarder, because the width and the height, I think I screwed that up so the width and the height are the exact opposite. So let's go back into my tiles. And so notice here that the width and the height was 4 by 4. So it's always module dimensions 1 and 2, and so it's probably width by height. So here the width should be 4, and then the height should be 0.5, and then this guy should be 4, and then 0.25. 0.25. Let's see if that changes anything. Okay, that got our bottom ledges in there, and it snuck those in there. So we got our bottom ledges back. And so it looks like what we're going to have to do is create some corner geometry for our bottom ledges and for our top ledges. Now this would be just a kind of like a duplicate procedure of what we did for our tile, and so that we would go ahead. And so overall, this is working pretty much expected, like as I was hoping to. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And so we understand this process well enough now so that we should be able to start dropping in some modules that if we were going to get that from UE4 or some kind of any other system, maybe Unity or anything, if we got a pre-created module set, we should be able to drop these individual tiles in here in their places and just have this go ahead and fill it right out for us. So that's really cool. All right, so that's where I wanted to leave off today. And we got a lot done today, and so tune in next week where we are going to go and see if we can try to integrate this with UE4 and then integrate it with an existing tile set, and we'll have to see where we go from there. All right, thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for your patience in dealing with all of our technical difficulties. If you like what you saw, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's Chris Rhoda. And the specialty area would be Houdini Secrets. Check me out on Facebook. That's Chris Rhoda, of course. And for those of you who are interested, check out the Orlando Houdini Users Group on Facebook. We've got a Facebook page there. We should have a little bit of information there. I'm putting a little bit of information week by week in there. All right, and check us out also on LinkedIn, my Chris Rhoda page, and the TechArt EDU page has all of the other information that is pertaining in there. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again next week on Houdini Secrets. Have a great week.